Happy Thursday, everybody, and welcome to The Shoulder Tap. I'm Jack, joined by risk manager Brett. Brett, how's the day been going for you first, and then the traders?
It's been a busy day this 7-Eleven, July 11th today, and with CPI shaking a lot of things up and Ben taking some much deserved time off out of the risk team for a few days. It's been busy, but good. We've got some big winners. We've got some bulls that unfortunately haven't done so well in the markets today, but we also have some bears that have done exceedingly well in the markets today.
So, who are the standout traders so far in this sell-off?
I mean, Raphael, I've mentioned him before. Raphael is hands down the biggest standout trader for today. I checked just a few minutes before I was able to join you here, but he's up $34,205 in their live funded account. And they've just been on a trajectory for today that is basically to the moon. At 8 o'clock, they were at about 6,200. At 10 o'clock, these are central times, by the way, they were at about 19.5 thousand. And now they have nearly doubled that to 34.2 thousand. So excited to see that. Lock it in and don't give it back. It's yours now.
Yeah, Raphael seems to have called the high some time back, and I will give him the credit, as I've said before when we've looked at his cards, that if you're going to play that game with the DLLs, you better hold the S out of it when it goes in your favor. So, good job there. I imagine there's a lot of red going on the boards, obviously. I mean, really be unfortunate. Today's not a bad blowout at all. If you've been a bull for the past couple months, you've done exceedingly well, and you got to take the sour with the sweet, as they say. But I imagine there's a lot of red out there as well.
There is a lot of red. I mean, the prop house, they're clawing away at it, or the prop house account. Um, they're clawing away. They started out with a losing trade, losing about $4,000. They've gotten about 2,000 of it back. Um, Deanna's also been trading a little bit today since 10 o'clock, but up a very respectable $316, which I know that is relatively small compared to, say, Raphael with 34,000, or Nick for a Tick, who I haven't mentioned yet, but Nick for a Tick is up 8,600 on the day. But I do want to give a shout out to Deanna nonetheless, being up $316, being that any day in on the right side of zero is a good day, and $300 daily for a year adds up to a lot of money.
It certainly does. I gotta change one thing here real quick. We got three cards today. What do you want to start first with, Brett?
The first card that I wanted to start with was Osenu, and Osenu is in 100,000 live account and trading the Nasdaq and the S&P. One thing that kind of brought Osenu to the front of my mind was that CPI number this morning earlier, that it caught a lot of traders off guard, it looks like, and Osenu was one of those traders. Um, During the CPI number, he had a realized loss of just over $7,000, which actually is 5,000. It exceeded their DLL, their daily loss limit, by $5,000, which just shows you how quickly the market can move on these news events that sometimes have significant impact and sometimes have little to no impact on the bid offer. But the good news for Osenu is still has a very healthy account balance. just over $10,000 in the live funded account, and has only been in this live funded account for a short time. Today is the 5th trading day that they've been active. But the good news is the first 2 days were really strong. The second 2 days negated less than all of the gains from their first 2 days of trading. And now today it's probably time to reassess and reevaluate and say, you know what, let's pump the brakes, let's slow it down, let's make sure we're able to trade tomorrow.
Yeah, I think something, because there's always some of this when we go through CPI, but if you're holding a position through something like CPI, which is the biggest number out there right now, it's bigger than unemployment, it's bigger than maybe everything besides a Fed meeting, such as the one in September, if there was like if the odds were 50-50 or we didn't know a rate was coming. But your odds aren't 50-50 if you hold a position through that, because I imagine that a lot of people today got hurt on that number that ended up being right. Um, you have a automatically enforced loss limit, and so it's not a coin flip. It's very easy for, in the crazy stuff that's going on with the bids and offers and the trades during a number like that, the odds are way more than 50% that you're going to get stopped out in either direction. Okay. So waiting a few seconds after it, waiting 30 seconds after it, there's still going to be plenty of movement. And if you are calling, if you're a bear or whatever else, you're going to have plenty of time to get on the move. It's really, I can't think of with outright futures a good strategy for holding a position of really any size through the number, unless you are just holding maybe all day trades and you got a little crazy to you.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, I used to trade the grain numbers, which happen, I don't know, 5 or 6 times a year. And one of the last things that I was told when I was early trading those grain numbers was, you've never seen corn go from limit bid to limit offered. Meaning at the time, I think it was a 60-cent swing, so very significant for every contract. But more, and the market used to be open for those numbers. Now it goes into the suspended state. But I firmly believe that we're not here, even if it is, and I hate to say as good as a 50-50 chance or a coin flip. We're not here for coin flips. We're here to capitalize and give ourselves the best opportunities as traders to take money out of the markets. And having resting orders or open positions during these economic events is just not something that is a viable strategy to trading long term.
Well, it reminds me, the other day, Dolby and I were talking on air about the meta game of trading evaluations in general, where this almost seems. I get it. Everyone's big boys and big girls. They can do what they do. This is something that, you know, in a combine or whatever else, people trying to sort of play the game of the trading combine, they don't care as much about slippage. They're putting it on for 50-50. They're going to lose money or they're going to make enough to do it. I get it. However, you don't want to do that with a live account. I mean, just from a purely the expected value of doing something like this is negative, and you don't want to do that with live money when slippage counts. Um, so just something to think about.
Yeah, and whether you're in an express funded account or a live account, the I have I'm not sure I've seen slippage exceed in a simulated account, whether it be a funded level account or otherwise. I'm not sure I've seen slippage in the live markets be less than what we see in the simulated market ever. And it just goes to show that having a stop market or a market order in place, it can hurt a lot more on the dollars and cents in the account than you maybe initially anticipated or best case scenario hoped for. If it is triggered, it can be many points in the NASDAQ or other equity markets beyond where the trigger is for that order.
Yeah. And just an update before we go to the next card. I know the Nasdaq's been selling off, getting a little bounce here of just 20 points, but we're down 460 on the day, so small potatoes. Uh, well, if you have anything else to say about Osenu, please. Otherwise, we can hit up the next card.
I mean, the only thing, maybe pump the brakes a little bit, slow it down, and then gain some traction before you start ramping things up again. It today hurt, but take it as a learning experience and move beyond it. And you'll get right back to where you were earlier before the start of trading today.
Great stuff. Well, who do we have next on this CPI Thursday?
Next up is Venkata, and Venkata is in a $50,000 live funded account. And actually, Mick gifted me this card from yesterday. It was one that he didn't have a chance to get to, but a lot of good stuff to cover in it. And um, the one thing that really stands out with Venkata, even though that average daily P&L is $19 in losses, and yes, Venkata did lose the account recently, but the thing is that 50K account with the $1,000 daily loss limit really helped the longevity of the account. Unfortunately, the account has been lost, but with the per trade risk reward at, I think it's about 1.5. Let me see if I can glean that number.
While
I
you're
think it's,
finding it, oh,
yeah,
go ahead, Brett, because I have something to go on here.
it's
Go for
right
it.
around zero point 0.7 to 1 as far as winning versus losing trades. But with a 50-50 winning trade versus losing trade, you got to make sure that number stays up and maintain that account balance. But after 90 days of active trading in the account, it really shows how trading for tomorrow is one of the most important things. Kind of a rough run for Venkata lately with a lot of daily loss limits consecutively, but it shows that even if it were a 150K account, they would have lost this account a lot sooner had they potentially hit that daily loss limit as frequently. So it shows the value of whether, regardless of what account you're in, and the top step daily loss limits, it really shows the importance of setting a personal loss limit. And especially in these live funded accounts, if you want a lower loss limit that is firmly in place, reach out to the risk team. We will gladly. I love getting phone calls from traders saying, "Hey, can we reduce my daily loss limit?" And we'll
Mm-hmm.
do it. Might give you some pushback if you want to expand it again, especially if you're losing money. But if you're making money, we always are open to a discussion of increasing that daily loss limit in the live funded accounts.
So, first off, the good news whenever we see one of these cards where someone lost their account, I always go to check to see if they took a payout. And Venkata did take a $6,000 payout. So, that's good. Now, sometimes we can give vague things to do or not. This is a very concrete one of something that you cannot or should not do if you're trading an account. All right. So you mentioned the rough streak. Vincata has been on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ended this account with a 7-day losing streak. Okay. The balance of the account, because that's what closed it out at the beginning of that losing streak, was $7,000. The limit on this account is 1,000. So, yes, you guessed it. On the last 7 days, Venkata lost $1,000 7 straight days. Okay. You can't do that. Your risk limit needs to get low. It should have been lower and lower each of those days, and he was already down a good chunk from his high at that point. Um, you can't divide up the amount of money you have left by the number of DLLs and say, well, let's hit it. You there's no reason to do that. So, like, please, if there's one thing you take away from any of these, is choose your loss limit in proportion to what your account size is. If you've $3,000 left, should you be risking 1,000? No, probably not even with $7,000 left. So, just something to think about.
That's a great point, Jack. And my intention in mentioning Deanna being up $361 earlier today, or just before the segment started, was not to relate it to Venkata, but it shows that, hey, if Venkata had put in place a personal loss limit of $361, or for profit or loss, they'd still have this account, and that's ultimately what we all want to see and strive for. The good news is, Venkata has a lot to review from this and learn from it, and hopefully take this feedback in the way that it's intended, in the most constructive way. And the next time they're in this situation, hopefully have a better result.
Yeah. And if you look, once again, this is pretty much a pure club DLL. The average losing day, you'll notice, is $1,050, which is $50 more than the limit for a 50K account. So, yeah. Um, at least there was a payout. That's what I can say about this card. And hopefully you've learned something that makes you a better trader, a better person, a better lover, all of those things. So, we got one more card left, right?
Yeah, the last user that I wanted to cover is Karina, and Karina is being called up from their 150K XFA to a live account. That was something that the risk team reviewed yesterday and made the decision on. A lot of good things in here. $864 average daily P&L. Winning day 78%. Um, and it's interesting that 78% is, in my opinion, or I guess anywhere from 60 to 80%, is almost better than 100% winning days, because part of trading is managing losses, and it is exceedingly difficult, if not impossible, to make money all the time. And being able to demonstrate how a trader or a user handles losing money to the markets is a really good benchmark for how they're going to handle it when they're in an express funded account, when they're in a live funded account, or any situation. So it really provides a lot of insight into the discipline that a user may have while they're trading.
Yeah, I see some great payouts here. And also, like you mentioned, those are great numbers for winning days. Winning trades could come down to 60, 65% and they'd still be good, Karina. But as you mentioned, Brett, if you have, 90%, 95%, 100% winning days, either you're extremely lucky, or you should honestly be trading bigger at that point. If you never have a losing day, um, then you should either be the richest person on planet Earth, or you should be trading bigger until you at least taste that red. This is advice for very few traders, but I like what I see there as far as the numbers. Let me dig into this card.
I mean, while you're digging into the card, the biggest thing that I want to point out for Karina is take a look at that average winning day of $1,238. I want to reiterate again, 150K express funded account, average losing day on a $3,000 daily loss limit, minus $448. You want to make a risk manager happy? There you go. Less than a sixth of your daily loss limit on average
I
for the 22% losing days.
Brett, I'm like that Vince McMahon meme looking at this card and then looking at the report. Um, I'm about to have the laser eyes because it's here are the losing days I can see in this account. Minus $9.72, minus 833, minus 340, minus 611, and minus 833. This is definitely there's a $3,000 limit on there, so this is very much not Club DLL. This is real good stuff. Just taking 1 or 2 trades a day. This is very good.
Yeah, and I think I'm not certain that you covered every one of them, but the worst day was at $833 loss, and really modest loss compared to the gains that we're seeing with an average $1,000 winner on a trade or a $650 loss on a single trade. Selectivity on these trades is very high, being that Karina's only taking 1 or 2 trades a day. The one suggestion I have for Karina is, you know what? You've traded a lot of products. You've traded equities. You've traded some COMEX metals. You've traded NYMEX energies. You've traded the currencies. You're going to be moving. You've been notified that you're going to a live funded account. You know what? It might be best to kind of hammer down on 1 or 2 of those products and really focus on those. And I do see in your trade report that you have tried a product here and there and not had the results that you were looking for and moved past it, which is a tough thing to do. It's kind of running from the bull and chasing losses is not the way to recover. So if a product doesn't facilitate your trading style, walk away from it.
Brett, we have to check back in with Karina when she gets. So this is based on 18 days so far that I see. We'll have to check back in when it gets to like 30, 40, 50 because I don't know if I've seen one of these cards with this many days where the average winner is greater than the biggest losing day. That's pretty spectacular. So I really, really hope she can keep it up and be interested to see how this goes. Don't want to put any pressure on. You know, forget we said this. We can't give you any advice. Do what you're doing. No comments. 10 of 10 from the judge in Oak Park. All right. With that, Brett, that was our last card today. A pleasure as usual. Can't even speak. Pleasure as usual spending the noon half hour with you. Look forward to seeing you later, man.
Likewise, thanks so much for having me.
All right. Well, stick around. We're going to be back in just a few minutes with Gabe's Road to Funding with Dolby, Coach Paul, and Andre will be joining. You'll definitely want to see that. So hold tight. Stay safe out there, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. See you then.